Shanna here, welcoming you to another episode of Worthy Asian, a safe space to talk about generational trauma, Asian parenting styles, and finding our way to healing and knowing our worth. This week, we're talking about our relationships with our parents. Yep, that's right. Though the relationship status of complicated is often used for romantic relationships, really, what's more complicated than our relationships with our parents? I think I avoided diving right into this at the beginning of the podcast because I was, and still am, afraid. I wasn't ready. This topic takes an emotional toll out of me, and so I started with what felt easier. And honestly, I don't even know where to begin unpacking this one because my brain is going in so many tangents, but I tried to organize it into 3 parts for you. So this is part 1. They were hurt and they hurt you. I have to admit that I spent most of 2022 being angry and feeling sorry for myself. That the idea of this podcast came from a place of anger and hurt and wanting to blame my parents for all my problems. But I've been going to therapy, I've been processing all the muck, and I've gotten to a better place with it. There is, of course, more work to be done, but I'm feeling like I am on the right path. Feeling the anger, the sadness and pain is definitely an important process to the healing journey. But there's a fine line between processing a situation and getting stuck in that negative loop where it becomes more detrimental than helpful. The fact is, you get what you put out into the world. So yes, you should spend the time to grieve and be mad, but the longer you stay there, that's all you're putting out into the world, and at some point, you got to put positive feelings into the world to get positivity to come back in. This one is still hard for me to fully come to terms with because I know it is not as simple as they hurt me, but I want it to be. They hurt me because someone hurt them. Hurt people hurt people. They had a hard life that in turn made my life hard too. And I somehow have to find space for both. They hurt me, but they also loved me. Gosh, I don't know if I can even say that properly or with conviction. Because I have to admit, I'm still processing that love piece. I'm not fully there yet. Because if they loved me, then how could they possibly have treated me the way they did? It's all jumbled up in my head and my heart because I know things weren't all bad. I know they worked hard for the life I had. I know they made sacrifices for me, but I also know that I feel damaged. And I feel guilty for feeling like I'm not grateful for what they gave me and for wanting more from them. Do I love them? I honestly don't know. And I feel guilty for that too. I feel obligation. I feel like I have a moral duty to care about them and take care of them. But is that the internal need of being a good and obedient child? Or is that my true desire, my love and compassion for them? I've heard before that we are all victims of victims. But I don't want to be just a victim. And I don't want other people to be victims of me. I feel like maybe our parents get stuck here. Life did them wrong, and that's it. That's it for them. It begins to define their very life, who they are, and they believe they have no power or ability to be or do anything else not in line with this narrative. They think life itself has to change the story before they can change themselves. Of course, they don't know that they're doing it, but like I said, what you put out into the world is what you get back. And if all you're putting out in the world is negative thoughts and feelings, that your life is hard, that you were done wrong, that you are hurt, then that's what's going to come back to you. Do you know much about your parents' history? What they had to go through? I know very little because, of course, it's just not something we talked about in Asian households. I have little bits and pieces that I can put together some sort of picture, and I know it wasn't pretty. But is that enough to make me feel okay about everything that has happened? If your relationship with your parents has the capacity to have a conversation about their history and their upbringing, I would encourage you to try. It could be a healing experience. But again, only you know best if that is a safe thing for you to do or not. It's hard for me to not harbor bad feelings towards my parents, to not see them as the villain in my story. Hard for me to give them understanding and compassion. So maybe it'll be easier if I just start with myself, with the negative thoughts and feelings I have for myself, and give myself compassion and understanding. I had said in a previous episode, I saw myself as damaged goods because of my parents. And that, unfortunately, has been the narrative of my story, which, despite any achievements or positive things in my life, I would always find myself circling back to me being just damaged goods. So I'm trying to reframe that for myself. I am not damaged goods. I am a flawed human being, just like everyone else, and I am worthy and deserving, just like everyone else. And I have the ability and power to make positive changes and choices in my life. Being hurt does not have to be the main plot of my story. I hear a lot the phrase, don't give your power away. And when I was beginning my journey with therapy, I scoffed at this a lot. Like, what power? It was too hard for me to see I had any. I was still hurt and angry. What power do I have when they did XYZ to me? And if you're in that space right now, that's okay. Like I said, for me, the most of 2022, I spent pretty much a whole year in that space. You're in that space where you need to feel and process all your feelings because they are real and they are valid. Spend your time there, do the work, and perhaps I'll have some future episodes on what that work can look like. But the message I'm conveying is you do need to spend time there. Just be mindful that you don't get stuck there. Things cannot get better if you get stuck there. You will repeat the old patterns of your past and of your parents' past, and ending the cycle of trauma does not happen there. I believe your body will know when it's ready. There will be a shift, a need for change. You will come to a place where maybe you're not exactly feeling ready, but you are willing and more open to the idea of taking back your power. Where you believe you are meant for something more and you want to go for it. And when you feel that feeling, I encourage you to act as soon as possible. Because it's easy to get lost in the dailies of life. Life goes on and you'll get busy, and then soon you'll just be stuck again, thinking, oh, I'll work on that later, or I will figure that out later, and then later becomes days, weeks, months, years. To move forward, we need to give our parents compassion and understanding. Realize they didn't set out on purpose to hurt us, even though it feels like their actions are deliberate. It may be easier to understand and accept if you can think of an instance where you may have lost control of your own emotions and actions and hurt someone. An incident where you would appreciate compassion, understanding, and the infamous F word, forgiveness. Forgiveness is going to be a whole other thing on its own, and I'm not really going to talk about that this episode, but I'm just trying to convey that there's probably instances in our life where we did something we regretted and we hope that someone can have understanding. For me, I have many instances of losing control with my temper, with my husband and my daughter. I can see how it happened for my parents because it is happening to me. I do or say hurtful things to these people I love who don't deserve it. But having compassion and understanding for these mistakes does not mean excusing or allowing poor behavior. It doesn't make hurtful actions okay or right. And this is where I believe, and I hope, that there can be a difference from how we act now and how our parents acted. They spent years hurting us and not able to make amends, not able to admit wrongdoing, not able to apologize, not able to try and do better. So it is harder to give understanding and compassion, especially when there probably have been many opportunities to make improvements, for them to act and make changes. But just because they couldn't doesn't mean we can't. We can. We can make amends with those we hurt. We can work on being better, treating them better, and treating ourselves better. It doesn't mean we won't make the mistakes again, but we are trying. We are aware, and that is an important difference. They were hurt, and they hurt me. They hurt me, but I don't have to hurt others. Having compassion and understanding of our parents' behaviors is just simply being able to accept that, yes, they were hurt, or yes, they had a hard life. Yes, they likely have their own traumas. And that's it. At the beginning of trying to process this statement, try not to attach anything else to they were hurt, they had a hard life, they have their own traumas. Because it's really easy for us to immediately jump into our own pain, get lost in that feeling of, but they hurt me too. And then we cannot accept their pain. I had to process these two things separately before I could bring them together. It's hard because it feels like giving them compassion and understanding makes it seem like we're saying what happened to us was okay. You feel that need to protect yourself, that inner child, you want to defend yourself. But tell yourself, that inner child, you know what they did was not okay. You are still protecting them. You are doing it in a different way now, so that you can both grow and not be in such a dark place. And ultimately, working your way to actually doing something about not accepting their behaviors. Working on building healthy boundaries. But you can't get there until you do this first step. Right now, you might still be experiencing these poor behaviors from your parents. You just take it because that's how it's always been. You continue to suppress your feelings and you hold on to that thought that you're seemingly protecting yourself because you're holding on to that righteous feeling that it's wrong and you know it's wrong. We get stuck in a place where we accept their behavior, but we tell ourselves, we know it's not right, but we're just going to get through it. But is that really protecting yourself if you continue to take it? Perhaps it's time for a shift and see where that takes you. There seems to be so many thoughts and feelings that come after saying they were hurt and they hurt me. But try ignoring all that noise that wants to attach itself to that statement. Because those are the things you work on after. Those are next steps. We're just accepting one sentence. They were hurt and they hurt me. Are both true? Yes. Once I could say, they were hurt and they hurt me, more calmly without it triggering strong emotions, it gave me the wiggle room to then process the next step, which we'll dive into next week in part 2. Finding the capacity to understand the familiar phrase, they did the best they could. This particular episode may not have been easy to listen to, and I hope you're feeling okay. Personally, I know this topic is a rough one for me. It drains a lot of my energy and it puts me in a funk. And it takes a lot for me to bounce back. And so I like to feel that feeling, but I also want to move it through my body so that I can feel it, process it, and then let it go. So I'm going to do a little exercise to help me get on with my day. And if you can, I invite you to do it with me. Start with closing your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and raise your arms for a stretch. Feel your chest rise up with your inhale. When your lungs are full, hold your breath for just a second or two. And then release the air through your mouth and bring your arms down. I like to do this at a minimum of 3 to 5 times, but you do it as many times you'd like. At the end, I shake my arms and upper body and make the sound as if I'm shivering from the cold, like this. And that just helps me release any tension and negativity that I might be holding in my body so that I can release it and allow more positive energy to come in so that I can enjoy my day better. I hope you can find this little exercise a little helpful to you too. As always, thank you for sharing your time with me. I would love to connect with you on Instagram at worthyasianpodcast to hear any questions, ideas, or stories you have. And if you'd like a space to be able to share, receive, or give support, please join and help build our community in the Worthy Asian Facebook group. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe, share, or leave a review so more people can find us. I'll be back next Monday. So until then, take care, talk soon, and much love from a fellow Worthy Asian.